Yeah, I mean, charge isn't going to defend this attack. You know, if it gets really messy, it will, but that's not the most important thing by any means. Alright guys, so I figured out how to defend all your basic all-ins. All your one-base ones, one-base Ravager, one-base Roach, you just build Stalkers. As long as you've probe scouted, you will be able to hang on. What we're going to look at now is a more ambiguous sort of all-in, and we're going to talk about defending that and how it's going to be 100% key for you to wall in with a gateway to buy time. And the key to actually having a solid ground-based, aka non-Stargate opening, is going to be to dump your first 3 chrono boosts into your warp gate research. So 0 chrono boosts on probes here on the test map. Of course, this is the test map. In case you're just tuning in, you're like not sure what the fuck I'm talking about. There's no mothership core. So the big struggle has been defending on this test map without that mothership core. Now, obviously, I am not at a pro level right now. Pro gamers might find things are slightly different for them. I'm sure they're going to figure things out. But here is like a preliminary check on, hey, can you hold the common all-ins on the new patch? I'm actually thinking the chrono boost allows you to. So we're doing the exact same build order that you normally do on the current patch. It is slightly less efficient. Why is it slightly less efficient? Because you do not have the ability to chrono boost probes. Which is why your timings are slightly different. But that's okay. Well, the perma chrono boost. Because we've got to save our chronos instead to be safe, which is very key. So let's get that core. We've gone, okay, he's going gas pool hatch. Let's try and hide our probe. See if we can get a follow-up scout. I've got to put a pylon down there so that I can keep up probe production. It's normally 22 pylon. I actually like this wall in because I just like to make sure I have extra reinforcement in my front wall. As many pylons powering it as possible. I feel like this is important to defend Ravager all-ins and that sort of stuff. So you still want to get an Adept. However, because he's gone for a fast gas, I don't want to go out on the map with that Adept. Because by the time it's out, it's only going to have about 20-30 seconds before Ling speed finishes. At which point, things will be a little bit tough. Now, I'm going to be doing a Charge Zealot opening. I really like Charge Zealot openings. You could do this with Adepts. Who knows? This could be a Robo instead if you're someone who prefers to open up that way. What's very important is that you get your next 2 gateways down very quickly. So let's keep chrono boosting Warp Gate. And let's get that. So I've got 2 more gateways, and now let's send this probe in. And you want to try and hide your probe, sneak it in, and scout to get some sort of verification. You also want to build a safety stalker. Let's get charge. Still don't know if there's an all-in coming. Let's chrono boost Warp Gate. Probe's gonna get a scout off, which is nice. Oh shit, there's no drones! Eon Blue being Eon Blue, trying to micro his little heart out. So, no drones equals wall in. If I didn't know what was going on, I still would wall in. Okay, so we're going to need to build a second layer of wall in here. And he says GG. Why? Because even if he breaks that gateway down, I've got this guy hotkeyed, I'm going to put a pylon there, and I'm going to have a second warp in just a few moments. I've got charge on the way, I can keep building probes behind this. I am safe. Now, the scary part, guys, is what if I don't know he's all-inning? What if he finds that probe and kills it? Well, this is why it's important to send your scout in at a specific timing. So check this out. What's important is here, 2 minutes 50, Ling speed is not done yet. So that's the moment where you should send that probe in. Because they don't have Ling speed, they shouldn't be able to kill it very easy. And he says, oh, good point from him. He says, you should always have a probe patrolling the edge in the main for a drop. So that's something I forgot to do there just because I was focused on the build. You should always have a probe patrolling from like there to make sure he's not elevatoring Zerglings. But his Ling speed just kicked in. Just kicked in as this probe's going in. So I probably wanted to send this probe in a few seconds earlier in future to be safe, right? Actually, holy shit, when did his Ling speed finish? He's got a really fast Ling speed with this. Oh, wow. His link speed's actually finishing before 3 minutes. Okay. All right. my game time is off a little bit. Maybe at 2 minutes 40. If you want to be really safe getting in before link speed, at 2:40, you want to go, okay, click that probe in so that you're getting in there right around 3 minutes. Just as link speed's finishing. Gives you a better chance of getting in. But let's assume you see nothing. Let's assume he's got 4 lings, they find you, you're like, fuck, I can't see shit. All you know is he's gone gas pool. He could pull off gas and just drone up. This could be a normal macro build, and it's impossible to 100% verify. How do you make this sort of build safe? Whether this is a robo, the important timings. Number 1, you need to get your second and third gateway down by about 2:55 at the absolute latest. That way, they will be ready when warp gate finishes to turn into warp gates. So that's number 1. Number 2, you need to drop your first 3 chrono boosts into your warp gate research. Number 3, if you don't know what's actually going on, or no matter what, you always build a stalker after the adept, by the way, but it's just when you can afford it. So notice I'm only adding it about now. You have to start it no later than 3 minutes and 7 seconds, because warp gate research should finish at 3:37, and a stalker takes 30 seconds. Notice I started it a few seconds before then. But what happens if you don't know what's going on? Well, these sort of attacks can hit you at about 3:45. So at about 3:30, you need to bring a probe, put it on a hotkey, and fucking sit it here. And the moment you see like roaches, you just need to plonk a gateway down. You need to make sure your adept's not blocking it, and you need to get that up and get hit points on it as quickly as possible. What's a good way you can check for this? At 3 minutes 30, you should shade an adept out and see if you can spot roaches coming. This is at pro level. Obviously, if you're not at pro level, timings might change a little bit. But you will shade your adept out and cancel it just before it finishes, and hopefully you'll spot it. And if you spot this, you go, fuck, get the adept out of the wall, drop the gateway, and always notice the stalker pops. Warp gate research finishes here at 3:35, actually, not 3:37. Cool, it's even faster. And you go, bam, warp gate, warp gate, warp gate, and you warp in 3 stalkers immediately. Then you have 4 stalkers and an adept, and you keep walling off to buy time. And this is how you defend Therapy All-in. You can actually do it, guys. Getting the units out this much faster makes such a big difference. In the old days, your first 20-30 seconds defending this would just be an overcharge and 2 gateway units, maybe 3. Now, you can actually just get your first warp in so early. Check it out. The second warp in is ready at 4 minutes 10? Roughly 4 minutes 10. So you can, by 4:15, have 7 stalkers and an adept, or 6 stalkers and 2 adepts. This is sick. Still got charge on the way. Still building probes. You can defend. All right, guys, you can defend with a ground-based Twilight Council, even without the Mothership Core. 3 chronos on the Warp Gate research. It's your first 3 chronos. 0 chronos on probes to be safe here. Now, keep in mind, this means your economy is going to be a little bit slower than normal. This means it's really awkward going for a 3rd base against these gas pool openings. You're kind of like, am I going to go for it? But I think by just after 4 minutes, you want to kind of say to yourself, okay, let's try to keep shading an adept out to give me vision. Let's move out to take that 3rd. I think there's going to be a lot of bullshit all-ins. Is this, oh, the issue is solved, Protoss is fine. No, it is not. Why? Why? Because Zerg then says, okay, Protoss is safe against this one timing, but they don't know what's going on and they can't scout. Protoss is going to have to move out soon because Protoss needs to put pressure on me. So what Protoss is going to do, what Zerg's going to do is they're going to say, all right, I'm going to build up to 25 workers, maybe even 30, and probably 25. And then I'm going to make like a dozen roaches and a shit ton of lings, but I'm not going to attack the wall and suicide. You don't know what I'm doing. I'm just going to wait for you to move out, and I'm going to jump on your zealots, or I'm going to jump on your adepts, or I'm going to jump on your wall in. So this is why I think Stargate is definitely going to be fantastic, because it'll give you that scouting. You can actually check if the Zerg's just trying to do a delayed all-in. Maybe Warp Prism builds. Maybe rather than opening up with the Twilight, you want to get a Warp Prism out nice and early. Or both. Maybe you want to go into like a delayed 3rd. Maybe you want to open up with like a DT. I don't know. You can't really... You need the 2nd and 3rd gateway for safety. So any sort of DT drop's going to be really awkward because you can't squeeze a robo in. So I'm still like unsure about non-Stargate builds in general. I think you can make them work at the moment most of the time. But it's a little bit tough. I think Shield Recharge at the moment is very useless, and I want to see that become more useful. But because it's competing for energy with Chrono Boost, I think it's just not going to be that big at the moment. It's like a very small boost to defense in certain situations where you heal some probes and they survive a few seconds longer when an Oracle comes in PvP. you know, all of that sort of stuff. What if you opened with Forge and did some old school FFE? So I've seen people talking about this on Reddit, the Forge fast expand getting cannons. People have been asking in chat as well. Ravages hard counter cannons. They can take them down super easy. Cannon expands are dead. They just do not work 100% in Legacy of the Void. Because of Ravages, also slow Overlord elevator drops, mega powerful. And cannons don't help you secure a third. The reason I like to play a very meaty gateway style, and previously I was experimenting with a 5-gate into third base to try and be safe. I was experimenting with all sorts of weird things, is because you need to actually have an army that can go out and take a third base and push the Zerg away. So yeah, so that's going to be big. At the moment, I also feel like recall, it's costing 100 energy and it takes 4 seconds to recall. Now, obviously one of the big design problems with recall, guys, is that it can just position your army, and you've got 5 Nexi in late game, recall your carry army. Go in sniper base, recall your carry army, which is why they kind of need to keep it at 4 seconds and why it needs to cost energy. The thing is, in late game, the energy is not going to matter. So it costing energy to compete with the other abilities, I think it's like too weak right now because it's so much energy. So I think the interesting time when recall gets used is the early to mid game. Protoss moving out, doing a tactical pressure and recalling at the right time. Now I like that they've made it a little bit less risk-free because it takes 4 seconds to recall. The problem is when it takes 4 seconds to recall, you can't do that. When you see Banelings a screen away, you recall. The Banelings are still going to have time to detonate on your units. Like, they'll get in there and blow you up. 4 seconds is a long time in a game of StarCraft. So you can't do that, and you're sacrificing a shitload of chrono boost, which takes recall out of the early game as an equation at the moment. So I want recall to be just made more accessible somehow, and you know, maybe reduce the area of it or something. But at the moment, I don't know, I feel like I don't even give a shit about late game carrier situations with those armies recalling. I think it's more important to focus on, let's actually make Protoss more mobile on the map. And I feel like, just generally, like, you know what my instincts say, guys? My instincts say having mass teleport for a race, having the ability to warp in units on the other side of the map, having a transport which can warp in 16 units in the late game into the enemy base. I feel like these are all mechanics which are always going to lead Protoss to be in the same shell that it's in right now. What is that shell? That shell is, I need to use a shitload of activatable abilities and things perfectly, and I simply can't have a strong mobile early game. Why? Because we've got the ability to build units in our opponent's base. If our army can contest the opponents on the map in the early game, we're just going to fucking win, because we can teleport our units into their base, we can teleport our units home. There's so much teleporting with Protoss. This is like one of the most difficult things to balance, and this is why Protoss is currently a fancy race. Protoss is a race which dies if someone blows on them too hard and their units aren't in quite the right position. That's why a lot of mid and low level players are upset with the way Protoss is, because they're like, man, I'm slightly out of position and my shit dies. I think just generally moving stuff away from having the mothership core, your mothership core wasn't in position with pylons on the edge, the double bio drop got in, stimmed into your main mineral line and killed you. I mean, getting rid of that's nice, but Protoss is still going to need to defend all of these different locations until Protoss actually has the ability to create some sort of threat on the map in the early to mid game, to actually have some sort of scary army outside of doing proxy Stargate into 1 base 4 gate. Protoss is always going to be stuck in this shell. I think the only Protoss player who makes Protoss look like an active on the map, mobile, I can fight you in the early and mid game map, the only player who makes it look like that is Patience. And Patience is awesome, and he's a baller, and he's also one of the sloppiest pro gamers who tries so many crazy moves and plays so out of the meta, it's kind of hard to judge on its own merit. So as much as I love Patience, I don't think anyone else plays like him. Hero is kind of different, because I feel like Hero goes a lot more all in than Patience. Like, Patience, he does go all in, don't get me wrong, but he's usually like, just attack here and warp in units, but I'm still expanding behind it. Whereas Hero is like, I am done probing for now. Like Hero will do like a very sharp attack, and then he'll probe up behind it if he has to, kind of thing. He'll take another Nexus behind it, but Hero, as well as a guy who's like, I gotta kill you now, I gotta find that fight. And I feel like Hero is definitely a little bit more of a timing guy. Now, obviously everything's not clear cut, lines are blurred, but these are my thoughts right now. I think you can survive these all-ins. You need very tightly refined responses. I think if you guys want to go for your ground-based styles, get triple warp gate. Do it. Triple warp gate, triple chrono on the warp gate. Get your extra gateways down by 255 so they're ready in time, preferably about 250, so you can instantly turn them into warp gates. You're going to be much more solid against all-ins. If you can get that down in your opening on the PTR, you're going to actually be able to have a good time with ground-based openings. That's all for now for that video. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.